I can't believe WWE are insulting our intelligence again. Do you really want me to believe that Elias was 4 years old? The man has a beard! Look at the dude. He's at least 12. The biggest thing that I got from this episode of Monday Night Raw is that Goldberg makes his son watch wrestling. He said, I came out of retirement just so you could see me wrestle, but now you can do that on YouTube. But I still want you to watch what Goldberg is. It's horrible. He clearly doesn't care about wrestling anymore. I'm trying to imagine their conversations. Cage, have you watched any Goldberg matches today? No, Dad, I was actually preparing for my football game. Football? That's not wrestling. That's not cool. Now go back to your room and watch some of Goldberg's matches. But Dad... Jackhammer, spear, yeah, that's me. I really don't have any time. These are the moves I'm gonna use on Bobby. But Dad... It's great to be your hero, son. Bullshit! Welcome back to another episode of Greatness of Raw. Now I'm gonna be honest, man, outside of Randy Orton and Riddle, I did not like the show. Rematch after rematch, matches that don't make any sense, feel unimportant. It's crazy. You know, ever since the crowd's return, I was hoping for a better show, but it's back to being boring, almost unwatchable. This episode of Raw kicked off with Randy Orton. Randy says he received a lot of questions about Randy's and Riddle's relationship. You know, Riddle wants to be in a tag team, Riddle wants to be friends with Randy Orton, and that's the problem. Randy doesn't need friends. I guess he doesn't need the buzz anymore, he found a new supplier. Orton says he would have defeated AJ Styles last week with or without any help. He achieved everything by himself and he doesn't owe anyone anything. He also talked about Omos and people started chanting RKO. And he said, that's a great point, I'm going to beat him with the 3 most destructive letters in sports entertainment, RK Bro, as Riddle makes his entrance. And that was a great way to kick off Raw, that was a great segment. So basically Riddle says, I get it bro, I understand, I know why you RKO'd me. I don't think so. You wanted to teach me, because I've been doing RKO for the last few weeks, so you wanted to show me how it's supposed to be done. And I've learned my lesson. Yeah. Okay. I guess he has a good point. Kinda. AJ Styles interrupts and says, how about RK no? He says it doesn't matter that he lost, no one can save Randy Orton from Omos tonight. AJ challenges Riddle and Riddle says he's unstoppable with Randy Orton in his corner. But once the match began, AJ Styles versus Riddle, Randy Orton left. So we saw the match, which is another rematch, you know, whatever. It was fine, I guess. But AJ Styles won when Riddle got distracted by Omos. Riddle doesn't feel the same way. He's tired of trying and trying every week with no results. Riddle is sad that Randy Orton walked out on him like that, and you know, he's not sure about this relationship anymore. Come on, man, you should not be doubting this relationship. Randy Orton taught you how to do an RKO. Maybe next week he could teach you how to do a punt kick by punt kicking you. That's a great idea. So this was a great way to kick off Raw. That was a funny segment. And obviously we all know that by the end of the show, they're gonna be together because obviously SummerSlam is happening this week. Then we saw Nikki A.S.H versus Rhea Ripley in a very confusing match. Not in terms of what happened during the match, but the result. Rhea Ripley won the match. After the match, we saw a brawl with Nikki and Flair. But we just saw a Raw Women's Champion losing again. A champion losing a match should be a very, very rare thing. It doesn't even make sense. In general, wrestling doesn't make sense, you know, because logically when a champion loses a match, that should mean that they lose the championship too. But in wrestling, that's not the case. So at least try your best to make sure your champion doesn't lose often. This basically tells you that Rhea Ripley should be a champion right now, and Nikki A.S.H is a loser. Then we saw a 2-on-1 handicap match, Veer and Shanky versus Drew McIntyre. I wonder who's gonna win this one. So we saw the match, Future Shock DDT, Claymore kick, and Drew McIntyre wins the match. And he also did this weird thing where he kinda interviewed Veer or Shanky. Say that you want to be just as attractive as Drew McIntyre. He asks the crowd, who thinks Jinder will get the win at SummerSlam? Nobody does. But raise your hands if you think Drew McIntyre is gonna win the match. And of course, everyone does. Obviously, that would be my prediction too, but what would be the point of Jinder's return if he would already lose? I think there is a big possibility Jinder might just win the match because he just came back. They're trying to build a guy, and if he loses, what's the point? I'm just not the biggest fan of the gimmick, if I'm being honest. I like Jinder Mahal, but I don't really appreciate his presentation. He doesn't look legit. His body looks legit, but he's a coward. And I feel like we should get a more serious presentation of Jinder Mahal because this ain't working. We saw the debut episode of MACE TV. Honestly, I like the way it looks. The Miz was his guest, and John Morrison is obviously suspicious of The Miz because last week, turns out The Miz is walking, so Morrison doesn't know for how long that's the case. Obviously, John Morrison was presented as a bit of an idiot right here, very naive, but at least they're teasing the rivalry. Unfortunately, it's not happening at SummerSlam. He asks what is his favorite movie. He says all the Marine ones where I appear. Talking about acting, did you fake an injury? And obviously The Miz gets offended that I ever lied to you. He finally does admit that he was cleared a few weeks ago. Morrison wasn't happy about it, but they got interrupted by Damian Priest, who also tries to, put some sense in John Morrison. Fortunately, Morrison still has a little slice of his spine, so he makes a match. Damian Priest versus The Miz. The Miz wasn't happy about it, but you gotta do what you gotta do. So we got the match. Morrison walks away to the back, and Damian Priest wins. So obviously, Miz was angry at Morrison, but he says, well, you did the same thing to me last week, so I guess it's fair. So they're back together, and they're gonna act like nothing happened, which is a shame. I mean, he basically lied to his friend that he's injured. Morrison had to push him for weeks. He never helped Morrison when Morrison got attacked, so obviously this is leading towards a storyline, but I mean at this point you're you're actually presenting John Morrison as an absolute idiot. I'm not talking about the fact that he plays with ducks. That's okay, that's fine, wrestling fans do that as well, but he's way too naive. Eva Marie once Doudrop to bring Lily, but once she tried, I guess she got hypnotized or whatever, man. Eva is angry, she slaps her a couple of times. Even her slaps look horrible. She's not made for wrestling. She is not made for wrestling. We saw Mansoor versus MACE, in which Mansoor won. We saw Omos versus Randy Orton. I guess that's an interesting match, can Randy Orton RKO Omos, but he never could. I kind of feel like WWE got rid of Braun Strowman because they already know Omos can basically do the same thing. So it was fine. Obviously it wasn't a good match, but it was interesting to watch anyway. Of course, AJ Styles got involved. They teamed up on Randy Orton until we got Riddle. He clears the ring and Randy Orton says, you know what? I used to respect you, but not anymore. But after I betrayed you, you still came back and helped me. So you know what, Riddle? I respect you. And Riddle is very happy. He says, yeah, RK Bro is back together. He even hugs Riddle. And look at the smile on Riddle's face. That was, to me, honestly, the highlight of the show. Randy, I'm so happy. He says, you know what that means? Raw Tag Team Championship match at SummerSlam. So yeah, it's official, we're getting the match, great stuff. Like I've said, to me, that was the absolute highlight of the show. Then we saw the NXT champion Karrion Kross versus Jeff Hardy. He attacks Hardy before the match, and the match was very short. Obviously, Karrion Kross won the match. At least this week he was really dominant, so maybe he looks a bit more legit. But it's still a bit of an issue. We saw Charlotte Flair and Nia Jax versus Nikki, A.S.H, and Rhea Ripley. Not sure why, don't wanna know, didn't care, and the heel team won. And obviously the main segment was Goldberg meets Bobby Lashley in the ring. Obviously Goldberg said that he came back because of his son. I doubt he cares anymore. It's like we're hearing the same promo over and over again, nothing new right here. One thing I've noticed, the compliments got into Cage's head. He was so into himself, doing this all the time, you know. Chill. Lashley said how this is gonna be Goldberg's last match, all that, you basically heard it already. Goldberg says, that's bullshit! Lashley attacks Goldberg, but Goldberg dodges it, and we saw a spear. So that's how the show ended. Goldberg stands tall. I assume Cage is gonna be Gage or Cage? I don't know his name, but basically Goldberg's son is gonna be at SummerSlam, I think, watching the match. That's torture. All this traveling just to watch a 2-minute match? I don't know about that. By the way, my other favorite moment of the show was Goldberg saying, "Don't touch my boy! Don't touch my boy!" Fair point. Thank you for watching the video, the great one. Peace, love, and hugs. It's been a pleasure.